Munira Wilson is Liberal Democrat MP for Twickenham. She joins me now. Good morning, Munira.
Good morning, Matthew.
So a man who is routinely accused of being a liar and who stands accused of misleading Parliament, his office says he didn't request a meeting. That's got to be good enough for people like you, isn't it, Munira?
Well, who do you believe, Matthew? Given the way you framed that question, I mean, I'm not inclined to believe anything Boris Johnson tells me or the public or indeed Parliament anymore. But, any whiff of a stitch-up would make an absolute mockery of this report. And we need a proper explanation as to why this meeting took place. The people out there up and down the country feel so betrayed by Boris Johnson, given the sacrifices they made. He's undermined public trust and they deserve a transparent and beyond question.
I was saying to colleagues about this yesterday is I feel frustration. My frustration is I can appreciate that. I wish Partygate would just move on, but I appreciate that Partygate needs to be dealt with before we can move on. And I think Sue Gray perhaps holds the key to us all moving on. And yet, just as we get to the point where we think we're going to see this report and perhaps we can all move on, we're back to this sort of slippery situation of Downing Street's statement, which is just the PM didn't request any meeting and hasn't tried to influence the outcome. But who did request the meeting? If we know that Sue Gray says it's not her, it's got to be somebody in Downing Street.
Well, I think that's the suggestion in some of the reports that I've read, that it was perhaps an official as opposed to the Prime Minister himself, which enables him, as you say, to put out a statement along those lines. I mean, we've seen this all the way along, time and time again. Every time he's come to Parliament to make a statement or answer questions or put a statement out to the media, he's chosen his words very carefully to try and give him wriggle room. And that's why actually the Privileges Committee investigation as to whether he's misled Parliament is so important, because it really needs to get to the heart of, how language is being used to be able to enable him to suggest that he hasn't lied to Parliament, when I think we're all pretty damn clear from everything we've seen that Parliament has been misled, and knowingly so. Do you think
the Sue Gray report, when it's published, will mark the end of Partygate, all bar the final repercussions for those that have perhaps
I don't think it'll be quite the end, given that we've got the Privileges Committee yet to come. But by all accounts, from what I'm reading, it'll be more damning than the police investigation. But I want an explanation as to why this meeting took place. I'm also concerned to read reports this morning that Sue Gray's been left isolated and not given the support she needed to take on an investigation of this size and nature.
Do you have questions about its independence? I mean, she's a civil servant. Boris Johnson is essentially the boss. This meeting worries me a bit. I have to say, it worries me.
And it worries me, and that's why we need a clear explanation. But you're absolutely right. She is somebody who's an official in the system who ultimately is answerable to the Prime Minister. I mean, I don't know the woman. Everything I read about her and hear about her suggests she's an exemplary civil servant who operates to the highest standards of integrity, and is a tough cookie who would not take any prisoners. But nonetheless, as you suggest, the whole system, the way that constantly the Prime Minister is essentially marking his own homework, because he's in charge of the ministerial code. He's in charge of the whole civil service, and he's got somebody in the civil service to investigate him. I think fundamentally, I suspect that we're well overdue an overhaul of the entire system about how we hold ministers to account.
Hear to that. Munira Wilson there, Liberal Democrat MP for Twickenham. Lots of you already saying the system needs to look at